as you can see, we have a lot of people on the stage tonight. And I know sitting at tables might be distracting for you guys. So if you feel like you're near someone that's going to distract you, or if the candy on the table is going to distract you, go ahead and just move away from that person, because we just want to give the Lord room to move tonight. And I think it's going to be really awesome. So give a round of applause to some of your student staff members. Yeah, it's going to be really good tonight. We have something special in store. But before we jump into that, what we're going to be talking about tonight is peace, and that Jesus is the Prince of Peace. And in Isaiah 26:3, it says, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you." And so our friends on the stage right now, they trust in Jesus. Their lives are for Jesus. And so we're just going to have a conversation in these moments of what it looks like to find peace in Jesus. And that it's not always easy, right? Like, we could put on this mask that says, like, yeah, I'm the perfect Christian, finding peace is really easy. But in reality is, how do we practically find peace in Jesus? So that's what we're going to be talking about in these moments, and it's going to be really awesome. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you. Ethan, if we can turn the lights up down here so that we can see all these faces, that'd be really awesome. But we're just going to go around the circle, and they're going to tell you who they are, where do they go to school, and their favorite Gatorade color, because that's an important topic, and you'll learn a lot about those people by their favorite Gatorade color. Am I right? And Gatorade is slimy. Thank you, Camden. Amen. All right, Mason.
All right, I'm Mason Klein. I go to Smith Valley in 11th grade. Got a lot of fans, and my favorite color of Gatorade is Glacier Cherry.
Is that white?
Yeah, it's white.
Interesting choice.
Hi, my name is McKay. I am a sophomore, and I go to Saks. My favorite color of Gatorade is either blue or lime green.
Hey, I'm Sarah Grace. I'm in 11th grade, and I go to Saks. And my favorite Gatorade flavor is Glacier Freeze, which is light blue. So, yeah.
Good color.
Hi, my name is McKay. I'm in 11th grade, and I do online school. And I've actually never had Gatorade because my dad works for Coke, so...
I'm Harrison. I'm a senior at ISA. It's at Lee High School, and my favorite Gatorade color has to be blue.
Light blue or regular blue, Harrison?
Regular.
Okay.
I'm Jackson Posey. I'm a junior at Smith Valley, and 11th grade, yeah. And none of the Gatorade flavors are slimy, but the one that tastes the worst is cucumber lime.
So which one's your favorite, Jackson?
All of them that aren't cucumber lime.
Okay, I respect that. And Gatorade is slimy, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jimmy, and I am a senior, and I'm homeschooled. Can I get a round for all the homeschoolers? Yeah! And my favorite Gatorade color is blue Powerade, because Gatorade stinks.
So good.
Yes.
Emma Kate, have you had Powerade? Okay, cool. Blue Powerade, what's the color Powerade? Blue, okay. Good. Well, now you know a little more about these awesome students on the stage. And so now we're going to dive in, and what we're going to do is I'm going to ask them questions of what peace in Jesus looks like in their life. And they're just going to answer the questions. And I hope that you would lean in, that you would take notes, that you would let Jesus speak to you as he just speaks through your peers. Because I think that's just a mighty thing that the Lord wants to do in these moments. So we're gonna get ready. You guys ready? All right, here we go. So our first question that everyone's gonna answer is, what does peace look like to you? Let's start with Jimmy on that side.
Really for me, peace is when I'm like out in the woods, just walking around. I don't have to focus on anything, just being in the moment and just seeing like what God has created and how even the smallest little details on the smallest flower are like incredibly beautiful.
Yeah, that's really cool. Does anyone else in here like to be in nature? You're like, that's how I find, that's awesome. There's a lot of you. That's really cool. All right, Posey, how do you find peace?
Well, so the word they use in the Old Testament for peace is shalom, right? Which means like full or whole, right? So they'd be like, oh, I'm building a wall. Like it's it's shalom, right? It's full, right? And so when I'm spending a lot of time with Jesus, right? When I'm reading my Bible, when I'm here at church, right? When I'm listening to worship music, I feel this calmness. Like I don't have to strive to be the best at everything. That I can just be confident in who God has made me to be.
That's really good. Yeah. Harrison, what does peace look like for you?
So for me, it's not really just feeling calm or at rest. It's also having a strong and healthy relationship with God, and feeling comfortable with coming to him in times of stress and worry, and knowing that he's going to be there for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for me, it's just being like still in the Lord and really resting in him. And I feel like that phrase is used a lot like in the church, but for me, it's just like canceling out all of my worries and anxiety and all my fears and really just giving him to the Lord and then asking him for like a word or a picture to replace it with those things, because he's the Prince of Peace and he gives like all the peace to us. And so, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, that's really good. Sarah Grace?
For me, like this peace is like the Spirit living inside of me. So it's like wherever I am, basically. So like it doesn't have to be like worship or reading a scripture, but like really having his Spirit like living inside of you through everything that you do.
Yeah, for sure. That's really good.
Yeah, I think for me, peace where I find it the most is kind of like what Jimmy said in the nature. I really love the sunset. That's like my go-to place. I love that. And just seeing like God's glorious creation is really cool. And I also just like the word peace means to me like is joyous. It's like synonymous. And so I think that for me, like finding peace is finding true joy in Jesus.
Yeah, so a basic definition of peace would just be like calmness. That's what most people would define it by, and that's exactly what it is for me. But the only difference is just that it's from Jesus. It's not just a worldly peace. It's straight from God, straight to my heart. It's just a sense of knowing that God has already gone before me and protects me, and he's always around me. He's making a path for me as he goes before me, and just he's always with me, and that's what gives me peace.
Yeah, that's so good. Hey guys, y'all don't have to clap after each person, or you'll be clapping for like a long time, and your hands will get sore, and you'll get blisters, and it'll just be really bad. So you don't have to clap. But how many of you have experienced the opposite of peace this year? You're like, yeah, it's been super chaotic, right? Yeah, I wish I could put like 2 hands up and my feet, right? But that's a real thing. Like this year has been the opposite of peaceful for pretty much everyone. And so we're just gonna dialogue of what it looks like for when it's hardest to find peace, how we find peace, what's a place you go to when you need peace. And we're gonna let our friends here just dialogue that with us. So our third question is gonna be, how do you find peace in Jesus in just everyday life, right? Because we can be like, find peace in Jesus, but until we have these practical tools in front of us that's like, oh, that's how you find peace in Jesus? I bet I could find peace in Jesus that way. And so we're going to see what our friends are going to say. But first, Emma K. Kwans is going to share with us how she finds peace in Jesus in daily life.
Okay, so for me, I feel like you can find peace really in anything. But I feel like the real question is like, where do you find your peace and where do you like seek your peace at? Is it like through like worldly things, like what friend group are you in, or like what sport you do, or is it like in the Prince of Peace, and are you seeking really the Lord and like the God of peace of mind that brings peace? And so I have to ask like that question to myself a lot, just so I can really make sure that I am seeking the Lord and seeking the Lord's peace and not worldly things. But yeah, I definitely just turn on worship music a lot, and that's how I find a lot of my peace, and just opening the word and asking the Lord and praying to him. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kate, that's really good, because I think sometimes we have to like ask ourselves that question, right? Like, I have to evaluate what am I finding my peace in, because it's so easy to find it in other things. Sarah Grace, how do you find peace in daily life with Jesus?
Okay, so for me, it's usually through the word or like through music, like probably what a lot of people do, but like also like just seeing like his presence and his like grace work through other people in my life, like the people that he gives me like in my life and stuff like that, because it's really just a sign of God, like when he gives you someone or takes someone out of your life when you needed it the most, because his plan's like better than ours.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's so good. Harrison, how do you find peace with Jesus in daily life?
So I kind of got to agree with Emma Kate that I really struggle to evaluate whether or not my peace is from worldly things or from God. It's sometimes because I'm involved in a lot of things, and so I really put a lot of my identity in those things, and so I tend to try and find peace from that. But I never really truly feel at peace when I'm trying to find my peace in that. So, but when I really do feel most at peace is when I'm reading scripture or listening to worship music, because that's really when my heart feels closest to God and when I really feel like he's speaking to me.
That's awesome. Jackson, how do you feel like you find peace in daily life?
Well, I think because like God has made us all so unique, like we get, I mean, it's from the same source, but we get to our peace in different ways. And so for me, like I love writing, right? So when I'm writing about God, that's when I feel the most peaceful, right? And the most practical one is, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to make a list of all the ways I saw God work in my life today, right? Which like, you think, oh, maybe I can think of a couple, but then you start writing and you're like, wow, like I can't stop writing. Like there's so many things, right? And that's a great way to posture yourself. Like Drew was talking earlier, posture yourself in gratitude, right? And just realize how much God has done for you.
That's super awesome. Who in this room likes to write? You're like, I could write all day. I don't. Like, would rather not. Mason, do you like to write? No. But that's really awesome, Jackson, that you're like, I can write the things that the Lord's doing in my life. So, for all you writers out there, Jackson's your man. You can come find him later. All right, sweet. So, you like to text? That's close. Oh, yeah. Okay, so the next question we're going to ask is a song, a scripture, a sermon, a prayer do you use in times of anxiety? Does anyone like have a song in the room that you're like, Dad, this is my go-to song when things are super chaotic? You don't have to tell me what it is. You just have one of those songs. Yeah, those are good quality things to have. So Mason, tell us about a song or something that you go to in times of anxiety.
Yeah, the song Bigger Than I Thought by Sean Curran is one of my favorite songs. I love the song since the first time I heard it when I was at Passion a couple years ago. And it's really just a good encouragement and reminder that God is so much bigger than I think and so much bigger than I could ever imagine. It's just, it's good to have in the back of your mind all the time, and it's great even in times of anxiety. Just the God of the universe and the God that created me and all of you and everything around me is like proud of me, and he looks down upon me and smiles. It just blows my mind. So
yeah, that's really awesome. I got my Apple Music response playlist thing because I don't have Spotify, and that was one of my songs on my. So you should look.
I'm so proud.
Thank you. Okay, who are we at? Jimmy, how do you find, or what do you go to in times of anxiety?
Usually when I'm like super stressed out or like feeling super angry, I'll oftentimes just go like outside. We have like about an acre, and I've got like a little like primitive shelter that I've made up for myself. I'll just go build a fire, work out some of the aggression, and then just listen to like worship music. And one of my favorite like songs is "Where Were You?" and it's by Ghost Ship. And it's basically like a guy asking questions to God about like what happens like in the world and why things are happening the way it is. And it's God's response. And it's him asking him, where were you when I was doing all these amazing, amazing things? And how even though he's like just an infinite little speck, that guy, God like took the time and really stood there and answered all his questions that he had.
Yeah, that's super good. That's awesome. SG, what do you go to in times of anxiety?
Okay, so whenever I first read this question, I couldn't think of like a specific song or a specific scripture. But for me, it's mostly just like pushing through the hard times or like pushing through the seasons that he puts you in, just to see like his grace and his works through like every season that you go through in life.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a good word. Harrison, what do you go to in terms of anxiety?
So the song that I always listen to whenever I'm really stressed or anxious is "Lord, I Need You" by Matt Maher. It's a pretty old song, but I just really love it. And I mean, I have a tendency to try and get things done on my own. I really don't like to ask for help from people. And that also translates into my spiritual life. Like, I really don't like to ask God for help because I really want to get it done on my own. And it's not really good for me. And so whenever I notice that I'm trying to get things done on my own, when I'm not focusing on God, when I'm not trusting Him to take hold of my life, I always listen to that song, and it reminds me just how much I need Him, how much I rely on Him to actually continue to function and live my life.
That's really good. Yeah, in that song, I think one of the lines is, "Every hour I need you." And so it's not just like every once in a while, right? But that like realigning of every hour, every minute. That's really good. That's awesome. All right, our next question is, when do you find it hardest to be at peace? Emma Kate Scott, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the hardest time for me to be at peace is when I'm the most distant from my friends, Ablaze and like Jesus. And so like when my life gets crazy busy and I'm doing rehearsal and I have swim and I have this and that and this and that, and then I really have no time to find joy, little pockets of joy with friends at Ablaze or friends at school. I think that's whenever like the devil sees to attack me and is like, you actually aren't good enough, Emma Kate. And then I have to retell myself like, no, you are good enough. And like, you are good enough because of the blood of Jesus. And so, and someone who struggles with anxiety a lot, I think that that's something that a phrase that our generation needs to hear more is that like, we are good enough only because of the blood of Jesus.
Yeah, that's really good. That's awesome. Emma Kate Kwan's, when do you find it hardest to be at peace?
For me is I'm an overthinker, so I overthink like everything, and definitely when I'm overthinking and just like worrying about things, I tend to spiral, and so I forget to like ask the Lord like in my spiraling, like, hey, like I need peace right now, and like Lord, I need you to like stop this spiral, but I tend to just like do it on my own, and then like after ask the Lord, and so the Lord has been really just teaching me how to do it in the need of my anxiety and the need of my fear and overthinking, to ask Him to be a part of it. So
that's really good. I was talking with a friend yesterday about how it's really helpful. My goal is to like minimize the time between my spiral and asking the Lord to come into my spiral. And like when I see that time getting shorter and shorter, even if it's by like milliseconds, then like I'm like, okay, Lord, we're tracking, you know? That's really good. Jimmy, yes. Jimmy, when do you find it hardest to be at peace?
Usually when I'm around my siblings. We're all homeschooled. I know a lot of y'all can relate to the sibling thing, but all my siblings are homeschooled and we're together 24/7 almost. So I really find it hardest when I'm like trying to get my work done, trying to do what I need to do, and then they're all there nagging me, messing around with me, trying to get me to do whatever they want me to do. And that's like when I really get like pushed to my limit and I'm just fed up and ready to like noogie one of them.
Noogie one of them?
Yes.
Can you show me what that looks like on Jackson?
Yeah, Jackson, come here. All right, you gotta go like this.
Yeah.
And you get them good, and then just dig into them.
Right, that's true. Thank you. I just needed like a visual picture of that. Jackson, good thing you wore a hat tonight.
It is.
Yeah. That's really, and so then, Jimmy, do you find yourself going to nature and things like that when you need to get away?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Yeah, that's super great. That you have that, like I can go out and be in my fort. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's the fortress of solitude.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Sarah Grace, so when do you find it hardest to be at peace?
Probably when I'm like super busy with like school and like worrying about grades and stuff. But it's just a good reminder for like all of us just to like come back to His word and like come back to like His just like what he says about us and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really good. That like regular line that we go back to of letting him reevaluate that. That's awesome. All right, our next question is, when life is not peaceful, is it hard for you to trust or find Jesus in his peace? So when life isn't peaceful, is it hard for you to trust Jesus? Jackson, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I don't really think it's ever easy, right? So in Matthew 7:13 and 14, Jesus is talking. He says, "Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few," right? So later in Matthew, he talks about, oh, I need you to carry your cross to follow me, right? Like when Jesus was carrying his cross, he collapsed, right? Like this is not an easy thing to do, and it's not any easier for us as it is for, Morgan or Chris or Kirk, right? It's never going to be super easy, but the reward at the end of it is so beautiful, right? Here in Luke 6:35 and 36, "Love your enemies and do good and lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the evil." So even when we are struggling to, follow God and struggling to seek his peace, he is still faithful and kind to us, even in that.
That's super awesome, yeah, for sure. I like the beginning verse you used about how it's always the hardest way, right, to find peace in the midst of anxiety, but there's so much reward on the other side. That's so good. Mason, how do you find, or when life isn't peaceful, is it hard to trust Jesus?
That's a good question. It can be very hard to find peace in Jesus because I just get so distracted by frustrations and things in my life. I just get so busy and caught up in the rush of things that I don't go to Jesus, and I try to go to other worldly things, whatever it might be, and it leads me to worse places. But then on the flip side, it can also be very easy to go to Jesus when I'm just empty and drained and I have nothing else to go to. Like in the song that I was talking about earlier, Bigger Than I Thought, there's a line that says, "I believe, but help my unbelief." And it's a quote from the scriptures from a man that's talking to Jesus. And he's run out of everything. And he has a sick family member. And he just cries out to Jesus, "I believe, but help my unbelief." And it's like that where I just cry out to Jesus and I say, "I don't have anything left. I need your peace and your joy."
Yeah, that's really good. It's almost in those times of suffering, like in those deep pits where you're like, "I'm desperate for you. Like I literally have nothing else." And so oftentimes he's using that for a desperation for him. That's really good. Emma Kate Scott, how do you find Jesus?
Yeah, so I think I have a yes and no answer to that question. That like when anxiety attacks, what Mason was saying, that we feel so broken that we have to go to the feet of Jesus. Like that is our only answer, and that's one of the immediate things that I think of. But then on the flip side, I feel like the only thing that I can cling to is the world, and that I can cling to relationships, but then I realize that relationship's not going to give me the full joy that Jesus gives me, or the social media, or binging TV, food, whatever it is, isn't going to give me the full Jesus and the full potential that the Lord has for me in my time. And in Ecclesiastes 3, it talks about a time to do this and a time to do that. And the 8th verse says, "A time to love and a time to hate, and a time for war and a time for peace." And I think that it's important to realize that the Lord never promised us that there wasn't going to not be peace. Like there is going to be war. And so I think that we have to realize when there is that war, we have to combat it with peace, and we have to use peace as our weapon.
Yeah, that's cool. How the world will know us by our peace.
Yeah, and the devil's not going to see us with that peace weapon. Like it's going to be a surprise attack, and that's what I think the Lord has planned for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Harrison, when life isn't peaceful, is it hard for you to trust Jesus and find his peace?
Yeah, definitely. In times of stress, I really don't really look to others for help, let alone God. Like I said, I really find it difficult to look to others for help for anything. A lot of that's pride on my part because I feel like I should be able to get everything done on my own. But ultimately, I don't need to get everything done on my own. I can look to God. I can look to my friends in times of stress, in times of anxiety. And it takes a lot for me to kind of remind myself of that. Generally, I try and read a lot of scripture, or I listen to Lord, I Need You. I try and listen to that. but it tends to happen a lot to me because I really have difficulty putting my trust in God in certain situations.
After a while of like going and going and going and like not realizing your need for the Lord and like even the little things, do you feel like after a while you're like, oh, I'm exhausted and I don't really know why? Does you feel like that happen?
Yeah, definitely. That's actually happened pretty recently. I had a really big thing coming. It will still coming up on January 13th, but it's this really important thing for JRTC coming up, and there was a lot of stress involved with that. So, and I was really, really drained because I was putting a lot of work into it, on top of college applications, on top of scholarship applications in school.
Yeah, it can like pile up really quickly. Yeah. McKay, Kwans, when life is not peaceful, is it hard for you to trust Jesus?
Yes, 100%. Definitely, like when there's dry seasons, it's hard for me to like trust in the Lord that He provides peace. But something that the Lord has been like reminding me of is that He doesn't like write on my heart that I have anxiety and I'm an overthinker and I struggle with fear, but He writes on my heart that I'm a child of God and He gives me joy and gives me peace. And so just remembering that in the hard times and in the dry seasons has really helped me.
Yeah, that's really good. I feel like all of us can do that. Ask the Lord, like there are things that we write on our hearts or the enemy writes on our hearts, but asking the Lord, what do you know about me? What do you think about me? That's really good, McKay. All right, our last question, are you guys ready? Is how would you encourage someone in this room that feels like Jesus' peace is really, really far away? Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just somebody who struggles with a lot of anxiety and stuff, and so I struggle with this a lot, right? And I think everybody on this stage would say that at some point they have felt just this inner turmoil, right? But there's this theologian, right? I mean, he's dead. He's been dead for quite a while. His name's Charles Spurgeon, right? And he did 10 sermons a week. He wrote dozens of letters every week, wrote well over 100 books, right? But through all of that, he struggled with, completely life-altering depression that followed him every day of his life, right? And he wrote this in his book, Peace and Purpose in Trial and Suffering. Great hearts can only be made by great troubles. The shovel of trouble digs the reservoir of encouragement deeper and makes more room for comfort. God comes into our hearts. He finds it full of earthly comforts and begins to break them, to make it empty. Then there is more room for grace. The humbler a person is, the more comfort he will always have.
That's deep. Yeah, that's really good. Mason, how would you encourage someone in this room who feels like Jesus' peace is far away?
I would encourage someone by just saying that it's not far. It's right with you. God is always surrounding you, and He's always with you. It might just take a step to get that peace and to accept it, because He's always holding it out for you. He wants you to take it. He looks down and just wants that for you. He longs for you to come to Him. And it might just take a step to get it, whether that's like a prayer or whether that's worshiping or whether that's having some sort of quiet time where you just sit and soak up God and just listen to Him and what He has to say for you. But He's always, walking right alongside of you, and He's running toward you as, we're just stumbling and walking toward Him, because that's all we can do.
Yeah, for sure. That reminds me of what Jackson was saying earlier about how there's always reward on the other side. And so when we take that step, when we're like, Jesus, I'm going to put it before you, He's always going to reward it, for sure. Kate Scott, what would you tell someone in this room who feels like Jesus' peace is far away?
Yeah, I would say like what Jackson was saying, everybody on this stage has struggled with some sort of anxieties, maybe some worse than others. And when I was in 8th grade, I went through this horrible season in my life where I literally could not find joy and I could not find peace. And it was where I was so focused on being this fake person and trying to act like I had this joy and I had this peace, but it really didn't work that way. And I think actually my friend Mason gave me this piece of advice, is that you never forget to smile. Like, smile at least one time in your day and get that joy. And so I think for me, and my advice to y'all, is that peace isn't going to come without you not trying to get peace. And so you're going to go through trials. Like it or not, you're going to go through some hard stuff. And the only way you're going to be able to provide peace for yourself is reaching out to Jesus, because he's already reached out to you and he's taken these 10,000 steps and broken 10,000 walls, but you just have to do one, and that is say yes to him. And I think that another thing is that you can't keep following the world if you're trying to chase peace, because Jesus didn't follow the world. Like, we look through his ministry is that he didn't travel the world, and he didn't travel the world to try to get peace through the world. He traveled the world to bring peace to others. And so if you really want that peace, you've got to stop watching the stuff that you're watching at night. You've got to seek joy. You've got to have good, godly friends, and you've got to dive into the word deeply. So, yeah, kind of went off there.
That's right.
Yeah. Jimmy, how would you encourage someone who feels like Jesus' peace is far away?
I'd tell them to go outside. Like, I know I'm saying it over and over again, but like, we were not made to live in cities, in like apartments, in your house. You're made to go outside, get your feet dirty, get your hands dirty, go run around in the mud, in the water, in the grass, and, right? Woo! And when you're stuck inside all the time and you're like getting away from that, you can feel really down, and no matter what you do, no matter like what you're watching, who you're talking to, what like you're reading, it's all gonna feel like distant from you and just sometimes bring you even like down more. And I feel like if you're somebody who's struggling with finding peace and trying to get to know God, but you can't really find him, just go outside, go take a walk, take a run, go to the river, just spend some time outside with him in his creation the way you were really meant to be.
Yeah, that's good. Well, give a round of applause to your student staff panel. And this entire night was run by student staff, so if you're a student staff member in the audience, stand and let's give them a round of applause, because they worked really hard to pull Ablaze off tonight. They're the best. Well, before we go to life group, Sarah Grace is just going to pray a prayer over y'all, asking that the Lord would be our Prince of Peace.
Yeah, Jesus, I thank you for today, and I thank you for everyone that's here. I thank you for everyone on this stage and what they mean to me, and just the words that you gave them to say tonight. And I thank you for who you are and what you mean to me. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Hey, one more time, let's give these guys a round of applause. Bible says